Year 2051. Only 500,000 humans survived and retreat to the oceans. The last safe zone is built with 2 layers of high walls. Humans gather all available weapons, but firepower is still insufficient in battle. The enemies are monsters called white spikes. They spread across the earth in billions, and each one is formidable. Attack helicopters strafe to machine guns overheat, but still useless. A cruise ship tried to escape, but it's already taken over by white spikes. It crashes into the center of safe zone. Soldiers have no more backup. Beneath their feet are countless monsters. The last batch of humans wiped out. Hello everyone, welcome to Happy Movie. This time, we introduce the latest science fiction blockbuster, The Tomorrow War. The story takes place in 2022. Dan was a special forces captain. After retiring, he became a high school teacher, wanting to do something meaningful but keep failures. Fortunately, his cute and understanding daughter encourages him. One day, he watches the World Cup final with his family. A group of soldiers appeared from nowhere. The stadium suddenly filled with bright light. Everyone are all shocked. The soldiers claim to be from 30 years in the future. They are engaged in a desperate battle against monsters called white spikes. If they don't win within a year, global extinction awaits humanity. The only chance of turning the tide is to send reinforcements from the present. They have established time travel facilities worldwide for people to transport to the future. Countries around the world actively send 1,000 soldiers through time. However, half of the soldiers are not qualified and casualties are severe. Countries are forced to conscript eligible civilians, sending thousands each week, but the survival rate is only 20%. The future war is worsening, and it is predicted that only 500,000 people is surviving. More and more civilians are killed in action. People start to be angry and anti-war. They believe that the future war has nothing to do with us. Some people are passive, thinking that the future is doomed. Finally, Dan receives a conscription notice to verify his eligibility for time travel. The testing personnel use a future device to see Dan's death certificate in 2030, confirming that he will die in 2030 and is eligible for time travel. In fact, this time travel eligibility confirms that the traveler has died before 2051. This encounter oneself's paradox is avoided after the time travel. So, the selected are usually over 40 years old. Dan is still shocked that he will die in 7 years. But the staff didn't care and installs a time travel device on his arm. This can send him to the future and bring him back to the present. Actually, Dan has considered deserting, but that would mean his family would have to serve in his place. After some thought, he decides to come to the new recruit base after saying goodbye to his family. At the base, he meets 2 teammates. The first one is Charlie, who is a rookie. Another one is Dorian. He is an expert who has fought monsters 3 times. He wears a necklace with white spikes claws trophies from previous battles. The officer announces that this mission will last for 7 days. If they survive after 7 days, they will be automatically transported back. Their destination for time travel is 2051. At that time, it is the end of the war, and humanity is on the brink of extinction. Someone asks why not travel back to the early days of the war to eliminate the monsters directly. Because time travel technology is not mature. It can only go between 2022 and 2051. When everyone is about to rest, an alarm suddenly sounds, and they must immediately time travel. These new recruits haven't even learned to use guns. But the officer can't wait any longer, because there's only one lab in the future studying white spikes, and it's under attack. They have to defend it. The time travel point is near the lab. They will land 2 to 3 meters above the ground and fall. Counting down, the new recruits pass through in rows. They scream loudly, their voices distorted like ghosts. Most people realize they've been sent to the wrong coordinates only after taking off. The time travel point is not 2 to 3 meters above the ground, but 200 to 300 meters. Dan travels to 2051 and finds himself is along with others and are above the clouds. Most people fall to their deaths. Dan and a few lucky ones fall into the water, barely surviving. This is Miami. Strange monster roars and human screams indicate that the area has fallen. A wireless communication comes in. The other side is the last military base for humans, led by a female colonel. She says Miami has been taken over by monsters. She plans to destroy the entire city with fighter jets, but there are scientists trapped in a nearby laboratory. Dan's mission is to rescue them. Dan, being the only one with command experience on a battlefield, becomes the commander. He selects a man and a woman to be reconnaissance team. After confirming that there are no monsters ahead, they locate the laboratory. In the center of the laboratory, there are piles of bodies with blurred flesh. These are the scientists the colonel wants. The mission cannot be completed, so she asks everyone to bring back the research results. Everyone must be careful because the monsters won't be far away. After collecting all the research results, they evacuate from the back stairs. The reconnaissance team walks last. They find a strange rope above their heads. It's the tail of the white spikes. They are secretly peeping. The monsters shoot spikes from their tails. People also fire into the air, but they are too panicked. They didn't kill the monsters, but casualties keep occurring. Dan stays behind, accidentally cuts the monster's neck. Dorian shoots the neck again and kills the monster. During his first two duties, he knew that only hitting the neck or belly of the monster could kill it. At this point, the aircraft is ready to bomb the city, but they are still there. The colonel sends 3 Humvees to pick them up, but they are shocked as soon as they start laughing. More monsters suddenly appeared, destroying the vehicles. Everyone fights hard, hoping to break through the monster, but casualties still occur along the way. The first wave of bombing begins, killing some monsters, but it can't stop more monsters from surrounding them. The reconnaissance team are injured. Dan don't want to abandon them, but finds it difficult to rescue them. In the end, they sacrifice themselves. The final wave of bombing strikes, turning the entire city red. Dan loses consciousness. When he opens his eyes, he's back in the military hospital. Only Charlie and Dorian are left by his side. Everyone else couldn't make it. Dorian explains why he's so fierce during communication. Because he learned that he would die of cancer in 6 months. He believes that fate has no right to decide how he dies. He decides to die on the battlefield. Just as they are talking, a captain came and told them. The colonel assigns them to a new team. This time, Dan chats with the female colonel. He unexpectedly finds out that they have the same last name. He asks her about her hometown and discovers it's the same too. He suddenly realizes that she is his future daughter. Yesterday, she was only 9 years old, but today she's the commander. She shows her outstanding talent and is responsible for research in the military. She shows a video to Dan. Previously, all the white spikes they fought in Miami were males. The female is even larger in size, and the males will sacrifice themselves to protect her. Recently, the daughter developed a toxin that can kill all males, but it just doesn't kill females. She hopes to find the reason and develop a poison that can kill females as well. For this, they need to capture a female for experimentation. There's a monster nest nearby. A female is there to be captured. A team of soldiers try to capture it, stepping on a floor covered with human bones, and drag it out. Although bound by a rope, its strength is immense. The situation almost gets out of control. At this time, the female monster howls to the sky, attracting countless male monsters. At this moment, the female beast is trying to eat the daughter. Dan distracts it from behind, and the daughter seizes the opportunity to counterattack. In the end, they manage to lock it in a cage. A helicopter directly lifts the cage, and a group of monsters try to intercept. One of the helicopters sacrifices itself, using its rotor to shred the ball. They suppose to evacuate by taking the helicopter, but that one is crawling with monsters and crashed. They have no choice but to get on a Humvee. The machine gun on top is powerful. They deals with the sniping monsters and escapes to the beach. She is a bit resentful of Dan sacrificing himself to save her. Dan doesn't understand. As a father, he can't abandon his daughter. But the daughter says, "You abandoned me and mother. When I was 12, you separated from mother. When I was 14, you got divorced. When I was 16, it was the year 2030. You died in a car accident, forever abandoning us." Dan is speechless. The two get in a helicopter at silence, following the female monster. They fly into the sea fortress. This is humanity's last defense center. The cruise is the living area, and the aircraft carrier handles Air Force operations. Together with the remaining warships, they form the final line of defense. In the center is a research base, with flags of several nations flying high. The most important thing here is time-traveling tower. After a while, they act as if the argument didn't happen. The daughter is currently conducting toxin experiments on the female beast. To prevent the monster from waking, she administers a tranquilizer. She plans to systematically test toxins on her, to identify one that can kill the female beast. Dan accompanies her, trying to mend their relationship. However, their time isn't so abundant, because tomorrow is Dan's 7th day of service. Early tomorrow, he will automatically return to the year 2022. The daughter plans that if she indeed discovers an effective toxin, Dan must bring it back to 2022, because humanity here has exhausted all its resources. In contrast, in 2022, humanity is still in its prime, with the ability to mass-produce toxins to eradicate all white spikes. As they talk, the daughter finally identifies the 100% perfect toxin. Suddenly, the female monster wakes up again and roars thunderously. Countless males are summoned to fiercely rescue her. Attack helicopters urgently take off, but can't completely clear the monsters. The defense line begins to crumble. They prepare to evacuate. Dan wants to poison the female beast before leaving, but the toxin is too rare to be wasted on her now. Dan must take it back to 2022. They prepare to escape on the rooftop helicopter, but the monsters have already breached the defense line and appeared around them. They stand back to back, eliminating them one by one and continuing their journey. At this moment, the time-traveling tower has started operating. It is expected to send Dan back to 2022 in 4 minutes. Just as success seems imminent, the situation takes a sudden turn. The daughter is unfortunately hit by a spike. and the helicopter pad has been overrun. The helicopter can only move elsewhere and wait for them. They help each other forward and discover that white spikes have invaded the cruise. It crashes into the base, causing a massive explosion. Throwing all the helicopters into the ocean, the daughter can no longer run, and a white spike tries to drag her into the sea. Dan holds onto her tightly. At this point, there are only 20 seconds left until the teleportation. The daughter finally relaxes and lets go. Dan loses his composure and jumps with her. However, he is transported back to 2022 halfway through the fall. Several comrades, including Dorian, return with him. They are severely injured. Dan hands over the toxin found by his daughter to the military for replication. Feeling a mix of success and failure, he finds that Charlie has also survived. In reality, he didn't defend the base, he just hid. Dan returns home to a joyous welcome from his family, feeling like he's being in a different world. He just feels sorry for them and doesn't know how to face them. That night, he struggles to sleep and tells his wife everything about the future. His wife doesn't blame him but analyzes ways to salvage the situation. Dan recalls when he communicated with his daughter for intelligence. She mentioned that these monsters weren't initially numerous. They just reproduced rapidly. They first appeared in 2048, suddenly attacking Russia. After 3 years of frenzied reproduction, they spread worldwide, wiping out billions of people. They wanted to find out where the monsters came from specifically, but satellite couldn't find any clues. So, the current problem is Dan wants to strangle the white spikes in the bud, but he doesn't know where they will specifically appear, and they only attacked Russia in 2048. Not arriving on Earth in 2048, they might have been lurking much earlier, making it challenging. At this point, Dan suddenly realizes he has a way to determine the time and place. He approaches Dorian and asks for a claw as a souvenir. They use instruments to examine it. They discover some residue on the claw. Surprisingly, it's volcanic ash from Chambai Mountain. How could the Russian monsters have Chambai Mountain's volcanic ash? Coincidentally, Dan has a student who is a volcano enthusiast, and he tells Dan about it. In the year 946 AD, Chambai Mountain experienced a massive eruption. The volcanic ash it ejected covered half of the Earth and still lingers in the permafrost today. It's also present in Russia. White spikes might have picked up the volcanic ash when digging through Russian permafrost. This could also explain why satellites couldn't spot them initially, because they were digging up from underground. They've been lurking beneath the Earth for centuries. But why did they emerge on the surface in the future? Everyone pulls up weather forecast maps. They discover that climate change will cause Russian glaciers to melt in coming decades. So the monsters are awakened by the melting ice. Dan requests the Minister of Defense to send him to Russia, but the minister doesn't believe him. Moreover, since the time travel device was destroyed, all communication with the future has been cut off. Public believe that destruction will come in 30 years, leading to riots. The minister is overwhelmed. Dan can only find an illegal way to get there, and he chooses his father, the pilot. Dan and his father, along with replicated toxins and teammates like Dorian and Charlie, fly to Russia. Their snowmobiles have specialized detectors to scan abnormal areas under the glaciers. At one point, everyone's detectors malfunction. They blast the glacier and indeed find an alien spaceship. Over a millennium ago, white spikes arrived on Earth using this ship. Everyone welds open the spaceship and breaks into the cockpit. They find the pilot dead, presumably due to a crash landing. Moreover, the pilot is another type of alien. Additionally, the pilot is a different extraterrestrial species. White spikes are their livestock, or perhaps a star-destroying weapon. It appears that they are two different species. Regardless, the goal is to exterminate these creatures. Everyone administers the toxin to the white spikes, causing them to convulse and die. It seems to be effective. However, their screams awaken other monsters. Now it's too late for injections, and they resort to gunfire. But what they encountered earlier was just a small fraction. The entire ship is filled with monsters. They can only blow up the entire spaceship. Dorian sacrifices himself, taking down the ship along with the creatures. He finally achieves the way he died. While everyone was inside the spaceship, Dan's father and Charlie stayed outside. When the monsters fled earlier, Dan's father precisely snipped them, and Charlie used a chainsaw to kill another. But one female managed to escape outside. They had to eliminate it. Dan's father took the first shot at the female creature, but several shots weren't fatal. Just as it was about to pounce on them, Dan used a snowmobile to knock the female away. With a shooting from both sides, they suppressed the spike. The female first escaped into the snowfall, and then attacked suddenly. They engaged in close combat, stabbing its eyes. Dan took advantage of its blinded state to inject the toxin into its arm. Unexpectedly, it bit off its own arm, stopping the spread of the venom. Father stood on the edge of a cliff, slashing himself to attract the creature. Desiring a mutual demise with the creature, Dan pounced on it, slashing its throat. He then stuffed its mouth full of toxins. It writhed in agony, and to kick it over the cliff. Finally, it shattered into pieces. They lay together, exhausted but grateful to be alive. With this, all the white spikes in Russia have been killed. Governments realizing the situation late now publicize the victory. Various countries' defense ministers boast about leading elite forces to eradicate all the monsters. Dan doesn't care much about these claims, because he has already rewritten the present. All the terrible futures will not happen again. He rarely thinks about future matters now, because the most beautiful future is actually the present. Alright, that's it for today's show. Thank you for watching Happy Movie. See you in the next episode.